Thank you so much. I promise you, this is the last time that you will see me today. You will see me tomorrow again. But we will see upstairs in like next 30 minutes. We will see upstairs for the cocktail reception. Before that, I think we need to discuss an important topic. This has been a hot topic from morning onwards. Sea freight versus air freight. We are not pitching one against the other. I think it is important is about how does this modal shift actually happened from air to ocean. Has the modal shift addressed the capacity concerns during peak season? I think the ocean freight project of moving flour by reefer containers to Europe started as a result of the pandemic. In 2020, some initial projects were actually pilot projects were there. I think, Krista, you were very much a part of that. Karen, I think you were also very much a part of those things. I only see Eric as an airport operator. A lot of people must be wondering, why is Eric on a air to ocean model shift discussion? But today, if you look at, there is a lot of products created, air and ocean products created. In fact, about 2 weeks back, I was actually interviewing the Airbus A350, the new production freighter, which would be commercially out, operational in 2026, which is delayed by 1 year. And the unique about that particular aircraft is that its main deck door is the size is bigger by about 15 or 20% to a 777 freighter. And Crawford Hamilton, who is actually the head of freighter marketing at Airbus, he said it can actually push a 20-foot container into the aircraft. So probably, I don't know whether that's going to be possible, but it's saying that the door is big enough to have a 20-foot container to be pushed into an aircraft. So whether would that be a collapsible container that can be used? How light is that going to be? How sustainable is that going to be? We don't know about it. I think people can be creative and imaginative in many of those things. Like I said in the previous discussion, probably certain challenging circumstances make us to be more creative and imaginative. I stop at that. Moving flowers by ocean freight in reefer containers was, as I said, was a result of a pandemic when capacity was not there. And as per statistics made available by KFC is that as of now, they move about like 5 to 10%, and they would want by 20, 30, 50% of the flower movement by reefer containers to Europe. Your initial thoughts on from air to ocean, and has that addressed the capacity crisis in the peak season or seasonal peaks? Karen? You started the discussion on this morning. Probably we start off with you.
Okay, thank you, Reggie. Good afternoon. I don't know if Yaron's was the graveyard shift. I don't know what we call this one. But still happy to see quite a few faces in the room. I think in the subject of air to sea, apart from the pandemic, I think there was also a growing concern from final customers on decarbonization. So it was coming. I tend to believe that the pandemic probably rushed it to come way ahead of when it was supposed to be there, because I think trials have been there for quite a while to really try and get flowers by ocean working. So I think pandemic really brought it forward. And I think the idea was that it becomes the other option, intermodal option of being sustainable and decarbonizing your logistics. So I don't know if I've answered the question in that sense.
But has that really addressed the seasonal peaks in terms of capacity? That you are able to move your flowers for ahead of Valentine's Day during Christmas season?
I think just talking about last year, because this year has totally different challenges with the Red Sea and the longer transit times. Like I mentioned in the morning, we did 46 containers during Valentine's last year, delivered to the markets, sold. I wouldn't say they didn't have quality issues, but they were not as big a concern as causing a very big outcry in the market. And I think the way we did that was to have the reliance and reliability to sail, because when you're planning 3 to 4 weeks ahead of when the product gets there, then you really have to have your ducks in a row in terms of when does the vessel come, when does it leave, how long is the transit time, when does it get to destination, and the entire journey needs to really be hypercared and super managed. So I believe in that case, it did. In this case for this year, because there was no sea, then there was a lot of capacity issues. And a lot of the exporters and freight forwarders can be able to say that that is the reason why there was a very big increase in the requirements for air. Maybe Christoph, you can also...
I know both Christo as well as Karen, they are very deeply involved in this particular project. Christo, you've been part of this project earlier, and you've been you're heading the sea freight perishables for Kuehne+Nagel, East Africa. What are you reading and what are you picking up from air to ocean and the importance of sea freight for flower shipment?
Yes, thank you, Reggie. But first of all, before I answer your question, I want to say that when the Red Sea crisis started and we had a lot of containers on the high seas and the Red Sea closed, including some of yours, Karen, we were very happy that air freight was there, because we had all the containers dropped off in Jebel Ali, and we flew, 100% of all the flowers to Amsterdam, Brussels, London. So, we learned a lot from that experience. But all the flowers were entered in the end destination. To come back to your question, I think you're a bit pushy on that. Sea freight is helping a capacity problem with the flower holidays. I think we are in a stage now that, especially starting this year, but due to certain circumstances in the Red Sea that didn't materialize, that a lot of the buyers in Europe, for the first time, had a substantial percentage of their flower sales from Kenya to supermarkets, mainly big supermarkets in Europe, transported by sea. And a little bit out of decarbonization, but most of all because of cost, so they could be competitive. So we were looking at least 10 to 15 containers on a weekly basis, year-round, and of course with Valentine and International Women's Day and Mother's Day, etc., you will always see a peak. But I think, you're also talking about sea freight project. It's not a project anymore. It's there, and it's there to stay. And the main driver now is cost, yes. Still now, it is capacity. It's a lack of air freight capacity, actually. We're still struggling these weeks to get the second flush from Valentine to get it out. I can't offer any sea freight at the moment, although we're shipping 2 containers this week, but it will remain those small numbers. At the end of the day, the game changer will be decarbonization. I mean, the Green Deal in the European Union means that by 2050, which seems far, far away, European Union has to be carbon neutral. And there's a certain milestones in 2030, 2035, 2040, where you have to justify as a big company the amount of carbon you have produced, including your supply chain. So at the end of the day, I think sea freight, you need, if you want to sell flowers from Kenya, you need sea freight.
Yeah, in fact, I don't intend to what is called one against the other. My effort is to see the complementarity of the ocean freight as well as air freight. I've been talking to different people, particularly people operating out of Dubai, United Arab Emirates. They see a great value in terms of creating unique products, which is a mix of ocean freight and air freight. I think there is a value proposition for both. air freight will continue to play a significant role in global trade on certain commodities. But at the same time, you will see that certain commodities probably move across different modes of transport, particularly between ocean and air. Let me get Eric and Roger. I was talking to Roger, and Roger said, I have nothing to do on this particular topic, but I said, I got your reference from somebody who spoke to you, and probably you may not be doing anything specific on that, but I think you have certain great insights on this particular topic. Probably would like to pick your brain on what your reflections are on from air to ocean as far as flower perishable transport is concerned, particularly on the flower side.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you. Observation is that it's an exciting opportunity for shipping lines in general. It's something that will enhance, I think, our products. Fortunately, we're extremely resilient as shipping lines in general. We react very quickly to situations. But just from a few facts I picked up from the Kenya Port Authority, currently, there are about 11,000 TEUs of reefer import into the country, of which there are further 17,000 going out full. Yeah, that's all products, so avocados, etc., etc., etc. Which means that today you're talking about 6,500 TEUs, so 3,500 containers if we're talking 40-foots, which have to be bought in empty. Now, that is a cost to the shipping lines and something that needs to be, we need to have planning here, is the point, because if the flower industry wants to give us 10 times more than they give us today, then there are some definite logistical challenges that will come about because of that. Because I don't see the reefer volume inbound really increasing significantly given our current economic situation. So I'm not saying we can't cope with it, but it will certainly have a cost effect potentially when so many empties have to keep being moved into the country. There's also the added problem of handling empties, potential damage. You know, a 40-foot reefer costs maybe $20,000 plus or minus. This is expensive kit. Loading cargo into it to bring it in is not really an option apart from maybe a very few cargoes. So then the potential for damage between here and up to, if assuming they're going up to Nairobi, is quite high. So all these will impact on the product that we're able to offer. Not saying that we can't overcome those challenges, we will, but it's something to bear in mind for the industry. Thank you.
Eric, there's a very specific question to you. Like I said, you're an airport operator. You have 2 airports under you, but one is specifically on the cargo side. Why do you think this is an important trend going forward with air to ocean move of flower transport?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, it's indeed an important trend for the industry of the air transport. I remind that this shift, this trend, has started during COVID pandemic due to the lack of belly capacity in the belly flight, passenger belly flight, and it started at this time, even if the trend was already almost at that time, and we might have thought that after COVID things will come back to normal, and it was not true, because in the meantime there was some new deal on the habits of the consumers, which have changed dramatically, with the worry about the carbon footprint of what they buy every day, day to day. It's true on flowers, on perishable, on everything. In Europe, several shops, very famous brands of shops, are telling to everybody that they don't sell anymore some goods which can come by flight to Europe. It's commercial speech, but it works, and there is a public to hear and to be sensibilized on these topics. So this is a major trend. I think the air transport industry is facing a real challenge to compete with these new competitors. A few years ago, we thought in the air transport industry that flowers and perishables was kind of products, a protected market. We thought that we didn't see any competitors in that kind of transport. It was already, of course, a mistake, and now it's not true anymore, because there is this new trend, and more than this, there is a cost efficiency, which is more interesting for sea freight, of course.
Karen, KFC has kind of decided or set a target of 50% of the movement of flour by 2030. Looks very ambitious, given the kind of global shocks that we come across. The Red Sea was something that was completely unpredictable. Nobody actually accounted for something like that. And shocks of that nature, of that global proportion, is the frequency at which it happens also is increasing. We think that one is over, and probably that there will be a long break. That just doesn't happen. There will be another unexpected crisis of either of a man-made nature or of a natural disaster, something that comes up. How do you think about that ambitious target, about 50% by ocean freight? Is that something that is achievable?
That's $1 million question. I think the challenges will be there, like you've said. Nobody predicted what COVID would do. Nobody predicted the Red Sea. We don't know what else is coming ahead. But it's always good to have a target, because when you have a target, then you work towards it. I have seen a few challenges in that target, in that quite a big percentage is auction-based growers who go into the Dutch auctions. The direct market, from where we sit, have been very ambitious and very pushy about getting the agenda of getting air to sea in terms of decarbonizing. I think the message is not as taken in by especially the buyers that are on the Dutch flour auctions. So I actually mentioned it to somebody and said, probably next time we really need to hear the voice of the auction, because they carry a very big percentage of the market, and we feel that a lot of that is the influence that the buyers have. Because I think when we were out in Holland for the IFTF show towards the end of last year, we really did speak to a lot of the auctioneers, and they said it's not a requirement for you to declare that product is air freighted or sea freighted on the clock, but when you do, there's always a negative impact when it comes to returns. That doesn't help the actual exporter and grower who really wants to be a part of the journey to say that I will continue to push, because it's hurting your pockets. So I think commercially, there has to be something linked towards ambition in being able to convert to ocean. Because if it's driven by the buyers in both sides, and they can be able to push that same message through to the person who is actually packing the flowers, we've not gotten a lot of resistance. There's a lot of people who would like to go that journey. There's a lot of investment as well. We can't handle sea products the same way we handle the air. I think Jérôme alluded to it. There's a lot of support from likes of TradeMark Africa and some of the other functions to say, what do we need to upscale our cold facilities to be able to handle ocean? But I think if you have the right process and the right facility, then even the extended transit time will cease to be a problem, because as the shipping lines are working on the technicalities and actually upscaling the reefer container, there's a lot of the technology that goes in to ensure that we get the results that we require. So if you couple that with doing it right from the beginning, then we can be able to do much more than we're doing at the moment. But I think personally, 50% is quite ambitious for 2030, especially with a lot of the challenges we're facing.
Okay, before I let Christo respond to that question, just want to get it right. You meant to say that more than the auction houses, it is the direct sellers, direct buyers and online platforms which are actually pushing for for a modal shift from air to ocean, or the influence is coming from them? Did I get that right?
Yes, the direct retailers, that's where a lot of the influence is coming from, both in mainland Europe, in the UK, and the other countries. But we don't see as much of that push from the auction.
Okay.
And that takes a very big percentage of what we do on flowers out of Kenya.
That's right. Crystal.
There's a lot to say to that. I worked for the flower auction for many, many years, and of course I fully agree with Karen and her observation. Luckily, I don't know if that's the right word, but the percentage going via clock is going down still, especially when it comes to roses from Kenya. But okay, still substantial, like 40-45% is auctioned. By the clock, and again, it's a kind of perception. I think we have to strive together with KFC and the industry that when you indicate that these flowers are sea freighted, that you should get a bonus in the end because you do something about carbon footprint. But okay, we're not there yet. It's a very old industry. It's a very conservative industry. So that might be a bridge too far. But in the end, I think that's what we have to go for. And there's also, especially in the online sales in Europe, companies like Blue Moon, on their website, they advertise with, or they indicate the carbon emission per bouquet, somewhere around 5, 6, 7 kgs of CO2 per bouquet, and they say, okay, we put in a sea freighted flower from Kenya, and you can, or the flowers from Kenya that are sea freighted. If we put them in a bouquet, you can get a 20% reduction in your specific bouquet. So it makes it very tangible for the consumers. And more auction growers, they also sell direct. It's hard for them to refuse. So even the auction growers and the handlers handling these auction flowers, they get acquainted with sea freight. They have to. So we have to give it a bit of time, but. And again, 50% in 2030. I hope so. I hope you have your problem with repositioning. I really, really do. But
So is that too ambitious a target?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. It can be done. 2030. I mean, that's only 5 years from now. Like you said, when something really drastic is happening, when the Green Deal in the European Union gets a real acceleration, and Lidl and Aldi and Kaufland, they say, and now we will stop buying sea freighted flowers. Yeah, you can make steps, but.
Okay, got the point. Eric, I don't know how much of perishable produce flower comes into your airport. You are also from a region which has got both airports as well as seaports, very important ports around the region. How do you see the future of this from an airport operator perspective?
I'm not an expert in sea transport and port operation, of course. And I have no figures about how many flowers my colleagues from Antwerp, Bruges, or Ostend handled as a flower. What I can say is that we recorded a huge decrease of flowers importation at Ostend Airport last year, but it was not really a trend due to the market. It was due to reorganizations of the network of one of our customers. So it's not a good indicator. I really think that there is some room for improvement in the synergy between air transport and sea transport. Maybe we will talk about it a little later. And I keep trustful on what will happen in the next future.
Roger, since you're based as regional managing director for West European Container WC Lines, how strongly you feel that there is an opportunity for you in this space? You're based in Mombasa.
I think there is, yes. Obviously, we have the challenge of Yemen at the moment. And long term, the Red Sea is something that is a challenge to this country's flowers, because the Suez Canal will continue to put up its fees. And we have no choice from the quick route but to go through Suez. So there are a number of issues there. But I feel that the market is definitely going to grow. I mean, the Flower Council want it. And I think consumer demand, price, I mean, okay, the issue of making choices because of ethical reasons is there, but there's also the sheer finance issue. Cheaper and cheaper is the drive, tends to be, from what I see. So that's going to drive Kenya to move towards sea freight to remain competitive. As far as I understand, the South Americans are getting into Europe and the Far East quickly, and at a lower unit price than we do from here. Now, I'm not an expert, but Christo can no doubt elucidate on that. But yes, I think there's room, there's space, yes.
Christo's, please go ahead.
If you put up a service from Mombasa to Rotterdam, I fill it up with flowers and avocados and pineapples. No problem. You're in business tomorrow.
Thank you. And what do we bring back?
15 days, 20 days.
Yeah, but what
Step on it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. What do we bring back?
Huh?
What do we bring back, Christo? That's another challenge. Yeah?
That's your job.
I want to ask this one question to all of you before I take a few questions, if there are any from the audience. How strongly do you think that this particular trend is going to address the sustainability goals? Is that the most important goal that you are trying to address with the ocean freight of moving flowers?
I go first?
Yeah.
I think very strongly. Yeah, it'll really affect it. When we talk about air versus sea, the decarbonization is between 80 and 90%. And that's before we even talk about the fuels that the vessels are using. Then if we go the extra mile, like we in Maersk have done, to go to green methanol, then that decarbonizes it even further. So there will be requirements that your supply chains do it. And ocean is an easy win. For me, it's already decarbonizing it quite a lot to begin with. And secondly, if you go the step ahead, which is what the airlines are also doing as well with the sustainable fuel, to have it on ocean and well, then you can marry the two. There's always going to be a balance between air and sea or air and ocean. I never see it as 100% ocean or 100% air. That fine balance is what will decarbonize our supply chains. But if you allow me to add something else, as we go through this journey, it's not about shipping lines only. Like Roger alluded to, we have to talk to the Kenya Ports Authority. We have to really upscale the people who are doing reefers. As much as possible, where we have forums, let's drum up support to say that we can really increase the market for refrigerated cargo out of Eastern Africa to wherever it is in the world that we can, so that they can also get ready. We don't want to hit them with 500 containers, 600 containers in a week when we've been talking about it and not giving them the grand plan. So I think with all the stakeholders, let's involve the Kenya Revenue Authority, the people who do documentations, the likes of KEFIS, the regulators. Let them see that this is the big picture, this is the journey that we're going on, and really buy into the people who actually take that documentation to see that we're enabling trade, we are growing trade, and as a result, we should get much more investment and business into Kenya. I think one thing that I also wanted to add, visibility is very important. I heard them talking about it when they were doing the air freight part. It is really important for the customer or the exporter to be able to say, I have loaded my container in Nairobi or in Naivasha. When is it getting to Rotterdam? And for us in Maersk, we have a Captain Peter visibility. It has location, GPS. wherever it is that you have network coverage, you'll be able to see that this container has got into the port, it has discharged on the other side. You can manage your customer. You can be able to tell them there's been a bit of an issue, we've had a problem in the high seas, but I can see that the container will be 2 or 3 days late. For me, that's a game changer. You can monitor the atmospheres, you can monitor the temperatures, you can manage the journey of your cargo without leaving. It is available on your mobile app, on your phone. It is available as long as you do the login. And I think technology has a very big part to play, and that can only be improved for the future.
Christo, is this the most important solution to address the sustainability goals, or is it a cheaper mode of transport?
That's a very black and white question, but okay, I understand where you're coming from. I think right now, the fact that it is cheaper really helps. It's going, like COVID was a driver because of lack of capacity. Right now, for most of the shippers or the consignees or the buyers, it is costs. In the end, sustainability, decarbonization will be the biggest driver. Absolutely.
Eric?
I would say, and it's not my interest, but I would say that the sea transport has all the advantages in its pocket today because it's more sustainable, it's cheaper, and the only advantages of the air transport is the flexibility, the speed of operation, and the capacity is increasing, but it's not its best asset. So I would say that both price and sustainability are the drivers of the market. And as I often say to my colleagues, the market is king, the market decides. And I think that the market will definitely go towards something more sustainable and cheaper, of course.
Roger?
Yes, I agree with what's been said. I mean, sustainability is inevitable, and as shipping lines, we have been driven towards that. There are EU regulations now about emissions, and there's a chargeback system that we've had to implement for ships going through the Mediterranean into North Europe. The IMO this week, the International Maritime Organization, was actually talking about a worldwide somehow fining system, I don't know how you would put it, but to further encourage shipping lines to make the necessary changes. I think there tends to be a too simplistic way of looking at changing the fueling of shipping. A 747 full is about 400 tons. So moving that is relatively simple. When you're talking about the biggest ships in the world, you're talking 150,000 tons. It's a very, very different ballgame. And whilst lines are trying with LPG, with methane, with various other products, even cleaner fuel, something I think more radical has to come along to actually make it cost effective. But the push will continue. I see no way out of that.
Thanks. If there are any questions in the audience, please do raise your hand and ask your question. I have this one stupid question. I have asked this a couple of times in the past. A hypothetical situation. I am in Germany, going out to buy a flower at a shop, and there are two sets which I don't know. One has come by sea freight, the other one has come from air freight. Do I know the difference? How perishable is the perishable flower? Because the flower that has come by ocean freight is about 30 days after the voyage is still fresh as the one that has come by air freight. Air freight is expensive, sea freight is cheaper. As a consumer, do I get a benefit of the cheaper option of the sea freight mode? Or do I end up paying the same price for a stem? I know there is Nick as well as Rafael. Rafael was asked this question some time back. Maybe Nick could come in to answer that question. Nick, I'm not putting you in a spot.
So I'll try to be very political in my response. Christo started by saying that there's an online platform where you get discounts for buying sea freight flowers. At the moment, the sea freight volume is not significant enough in the grand scale of things to be able to be differentiated in terms of cost. So you might not be able to see that at this moment in time. But I think in the future, that should be the case.
Thanks, that makes sense. Probably it's like it's too small, too insignificant to pass the benefit to the consumer. Yeah. Any questions? Christo, you want to make any comments onto that? The question that I raised?
No, I think Nick is completely right. On a theoretical level, if you look at the degree days, so if you if Jeroen tells you from Flowerwatch the degree days story, you shouldn't see the difference. Shouldn't be able to see the difference. Then the sea freight has done a good job, provided that the air freight has produced as many degree hours as the sea freight. So that's a theoretical answer to your question. No. I think to add, we have Maersk lines in the panel, we have WEG lines in the panel. What you see now is, in general, the demand for freight worldwide is getting slower and slower. So there's more ship lines now looking for business, and a few of them see the potential from Kenya, not only flowers, but also avos, pineapples, mangoes, you name it. So I think, there will be more possibilities for Kenyan shippers to ship out flowers by sea. And in the end, that will help in service, in rates, in visibility, etc. So that's what I want to say as a conclusion.
Thanks. I think we have a question from the first table.
Yes. Thank you, Reggie. Congratulations to the panel. Very good discussion. My question goes to Chris and Karen with regard to sea freight and air freight. So we're having the Red Sea crisis, but carbon is still key for us. Are there options that you're exploring of using a hybrid method to both use the sea and air, like developing a package that you can offer your customers so that we are both reducing on our carbon emission while at the same time able to get the flower to the end consumer using the hybrid method?
Yeah, I think I started this panel with telling that when the Red Sea crisis started, we shipped flowers that were first shipped to Jebel Ali, Dubai, Emirates, and then we flew them to Northwest Europe. We have that service. There's a rate to it. It is not. Let's say it's cheaper to fly direct from Nairobi, but it could help you when there's a capacity problem. I think, from Nairobi, you can't really easily reach those funny flower destinations like Miami or Tokyo or Sydney. And there, Dubai plays an important role because from Dubai you can basically reach any destination in the world. So yes, that's interesting. From a carbon footprint perspective, you already are on the high seas for, let's say, somewhere between 12 and 15 days. And yeah, the savings are around 10, 20, 25%. So not as much as a full sea freight leg. So I think decarbonization is less of a driver to do that than cost or reaching your destination in a cheaper way than direct from Nairobi. But the service is there from Kuehne+Nagel, fully integrated.
I think I wanted to add something to that as well. Yeah, I think the service is there. It's been offered to the customers. They're able to consider it. But like Christo is saying, it is not a like-for-like comparison. It is not a shift that is direct from Nairobi. It will be cheaper, or air-sea combination, because there's also port charges that you have on the other side. There's the air air side, you have to move from one to another, from a seaway bill to an airway bill. The other point I wanted to make that is actually even more is, I think we're not pushing boundaries enough with the increased transit time on sea. And I say this with a lot of caution, but I think the way to really get some data under our belt is to test. Because Jeroen started, or in the middle of his presentation said, there are myths that we have been told about flowers that either sea freight that we have done has completely thrown out and said it works. So my challenge to exporters and everybody else is, who do we need to bring on board to actually start saying, if the Red Sea crisis continues to be with us, it will not be sustainable to do air sea. We still have to look for options that will decarbonize the logistics. So we want to be fact-based, we want to be science-based, we want to be able to say, this is what we've done. We've done the containers with the 37 days into Rotterdam, and these are the results that we're getting. Let's see how far we can be able to push the boundaries. We might be surprised that the performance will be much more than we expected. And my reference point is that the avocado season in Kenya was opened. It'll be a conversation for tomorrow. We are still doing a lot of volume. And that was because we didn't all give up and say, oh my goodness, the Red Sea has happened. The fruit was coming from the trees. We all had to work together. And we have a target to reduce that transit time, but there's a lot that goes in the background in terms of work. So in the meantime, let's not stand still. Let's really think outside the box and look for options. And I'm very confident that retailers can walk the journey with you, because I've seen it happen on the Avos as well. They say, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. And then if it's not workable, then we go back to the drawing board and see what else we'd like to do. So that would be my response.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. That's our panel from Air to Ocean. Has the modal shift addressed the capacity concerns during the peak season? Roger, Eric, Karen, Christo, great to have you for this conversation. Thank you so much. Big round of applause to the panel.